What's up, guys? Welcome back to the garage. Today we are doing another video on the stage 2 setup from Integrated Engineering for the 2.5 liter 5-cylinder engine from Volkswagen. We're going to be doing the intake from Integrated Engineering. I'm going to be bolting that up to the manifold that's already on the car. This is part of their stage 2 kit, so it's already got the intake manifold and the stage 2 software. I don't have a MAF sensor or secondary air injection, so in order to get it running the first time around, I just put the cone filter right on top of the throttle body. But I got the intake itself from Integrated Engineering, actually drop shipped through ECS because Integrated Engineering won't actually sell it to you separate. So time to get that suck on. Yeah. Hey guys, got a new merch store available with some hats, shirts, and other accessories, so if you want to pick up some cool swag and support the channel, go ahead and click that link in the description below. Alright, we got the intake kit here from Integrated Engineering. This is for the stage 2 setup. This is available as part of their power bundle, their power kit. For going stage 2, that includes this intake manifold that's on the car, and the stage 2 software with the power dongle to flash the tune. I already was stage 1 and had the power dongle, and they do their upgrade program, so I just paid the difference to go up to the tune and then bought the intake manifold separately, which I actually wanted the raw finish one. I didn't want the black powder coated one, I wanted the raw finish, so I bought it separately. That was the only way I could get it. And then I was able to find this intake on ECS. They actually drop ship it from Integrated Engineering. Integrated Engineering won't actually sell this to you separately. It's not even available on their website as a separate purchase. So funny how that works, but I was able to source it. So shout out to ECS for getting that done for me. When I first got it, I was actually missing this pipe here. It wasn't in the kit, but I just contacted ECS. They forwarded it to Integrated Engineering and they sent one out ASAP. So they got the whole kit here. You got all the piping and everything. You got the heat shield, you got the air filter, and then all the clamps and adapters and everything you need to put it on. My car does not have secondary air injection, SAI. So this guy right here needs to get capped off. So what I did was I just bought a little plastic cap here. I'll put that on there, hose clamp it on. That'll seal that one up. And then the other thing you need from your original manifold is going to be your MAF sensor, or this housing here. This is the adapter housing that I have since my car is MAP only. I don't have a MAP sensor. And then from the intake manifold kit, I'm actually going to use some of this tubing to hook up for my brake booster line, just because I have the vacuum pump delete, so I got to get that sourced in there. We'll get everything in there. We'll do a step-by-step and get this intake on. So a couple things I want to mention is definitely, and I will leave a link to this down in the description below, download the PDF file for the instruction manual from Integrated Engineering. It's a really, really good walkthrough. They did a really good job putting it together. They got pictures to go with all the instructions. That being said, they do the intake manifold and the intake at the same time, and that's definitely going to be easier. Obviously they do it at the same time because they sell it in the power kit. They don't sell the intake separately. They do sell the manifold separately, but as far as the intake, I had to source that through ECS like I mentioned before. But it's going to be easier if you do this all together, so doing the whole power kit bundle. That's the way I would personally recommend going about this. Just buy the power kit, you get the manifold, the intake, the tune, the power dongle, everything. So you get everything you need to do stage 2, make it really simple. That being said, I did have a problem, and you'll see this later on. It is really tight.
That's what she said.
With the tolerances of the throttle body being moved on this, the way this sits, and then getting everything in there. It might be easier for you to just leave the throttle body off until the hoses and everything are hooked up and then bolt that on. But as you can see, getting to these bolts with the hose on, it's a little tricky getting your bit in there. So I installed the throttle body first and then worked the hosing and everything on. I think my camera died at that point, so you didn't see the full struggle of me getting that on there, but it is really tight, and I do talk about it a little later. That, and then I also wanted to kind of show you, since I have the spool and vacuum pump delete, I wanted to show you the routing for my brake booster. Vacuum line for my brake booster. So this is actually the line from the spooling kit. This is where it would junction into their PCV tubing, but since with the IE manifold you get this new tubing here, I just ran, this is the line that's included in the power kit, or comes with the manifold. So this is just going to one of the bungs right on the bottom side of the manifold. So just directly from the manifold to the brake booster. But you know, you get all that situated. It's really not too bad. And then I'll also show you later on as far as fitment goes. For some reason on mine, you can see maybe right in there, that's the, and I'll show it later on too. That's the bolt that this is supposed to be bolted to. You can see I got the zip strap just kind of going around the bolt to secure it. So you can see how it's down. It's actually hitting this lip right here. Now, as far as this is pulled over, I'm kind of having an afterthought, wondering if maybe not running this spacer here would just push this over far enough and be able to just bolt it right up. So I'm wondering if I might mess around and take that off and see how it fits better and kind of figure out a better solution. If not, I might have to just kind of notch where this is hitting on that front bumper setup. But stay tuned for future video on that. I'll try to go through some videos and kind of get a video together on how I make that fit better and just kind of buttoned up and, you know, on there properly. It fits, everything functions perfectly right now. You really don't notice it unless I point it out like that. So even if I go to a car show and pop the hood, I mean, unless you're looking for it, you don't know it's there. I like having things buttoned up. That's just how I am. So I will do that probably in a future video. We'll go through that. Let's get to the video. Let's get this installed. You're going to want to, like I said, download that PDF for the instruction manual from Integrated Engineering, kind of use that along with my guide. I don't go full in detail on it, but I'm going to kind of walk you through my install and how everything went. You will see me take the fuel rail and everything off, and because I was planning on taking the manifold off, I kind of chickened out when I got to that bolt that's under runner 3 because it sucks, and kind of got everything apart to that point and was like, screw it, let me just reach my hand down there, see if I could get the hosing and everything on that I needed to get below the manifold, and I was able to do it with the manifold in. So you'll kind of see me go through that, but I ended up doing everything with the manifold bolted to the head, so I didn't end up taking it off. Anyways, let's get this thing installed. Alright, so I got a bunch of stuff out of the way. I took the throttle body off. I was going to pull the intake manifold, but that one bolt under runner 3 is such a pain to get to that I don't even want to attempt to loosen it up. If you saw my first video on putting the intake in, that one was really a pain in the ass because it's literally right under runner 3, so it makes it really difficult to get to. I was going to pull it off because you need to pull the breather hose off of the oil filter housing, but I was able to get in there and get it off just by taking the throttle body off. Basically making room to get your hand in there and work it off. It's got these 3 tabs that you kind of have to pop off, and then the whole thing comes out. I just, for the time being, had a little breather cap on it because I didn't have anywhere to hook it up to. I got that out of the vehicle, and basically we're ready to start putting the intake on. I do have to get underneath where this hose runs down on the bottom side of the intake, attempt to get that hose clamp off, and then put a new pipe on so I can run it and connect it here with my brake booster, since this whole runner is going to be getting taken off, but we'll start from there. Alright, I was able to reach under there, get the hose clamp off, get that old system out, put this new pipe on. We'll just leave that loose for now. We'll hook it up to the brake booster line later on. Next step though is I got to put this breather hose on the oil filter breather. This end is going to slide on down there with a hose clamp, and then it'll mate up with the intake here. So I'm going to try to reach down there, get that done. It's going to be really kind of hard to film just like these last couple steps just because it's tight quarters, so I'm going to get that on. Normally this would be done before you have the intake manifold on because you would be doing the manifold with the intake all in one shot. So after you get that breather hose on, I'm doing it a little backwards obviously since I have the intake manifold in first. Put the breather hose on first. Normally they would have you prep the runner here, getting the breather hose. This is where it's going to attach here. So you just use one of the fittings with 2 hose clamps, connect them together. Then normally they would have you put the breather hose on. And then you got your PCV hose that's going to go up here and connect here. So we are going to get all these hoses prepped and kind of get this loosely sitting in there. And then we can get the heat shield and the MAF sensor. In my case, it's just an adapter plate with no MAF because this is a non-MAF car. If you do have a MAF sensor, you will have to reroute your MAF wiring. You'll have to extend it a little bit to fit in the new location. So be very careful when you're cutting the shielding back on that to expose the wires. You obviously don't want to cut the wires. Then you're in big trouble. Yeah. We're going to get all this prepped up. We're going to get the hose clamps on, the fittings connected, and then this is going to be loosely sitting in there so we can get the heat shield and the filter and everything else in. This is also the time where when you're putting this in, you connect to your secondary air injection. Since I don't have that on this vehicle, what I did was I bought a plug here. I'm just gonna put the plug in, hose clamp it, that'll seal it off. I'll leave links to all this stuff down in the description below if you are running a car like me that's non-MAF, non-secondary air injection. We're gonna hook up the PCV here, oil filter breather here, and then this will be in and we can move on from there with the heat shield and everything. Now it's time to get this heat shield prepped. You can see you've got those stamped rivets in here. When you're putting your MAF spacer on here, there's two little recesses on one side, none on the other. Make sure those recessed sides are going towards the rivets. And then you're gonna use either your MAF sensor or your spacer block like I have here since I don't have a MAF sensor. And that's gonna slide in there and bolt there. If it does have the O-ring on it here, you will have to take that O-ring off, then just slide everything in. Heat shield's all prepped, ready to go in the car. These bolts are a little shorter than I would have liked, so you don't get as many threads threading into it. So just be careful when you're tightening it down. Make sure you don't over tighten it and strip the threads. But I still got a good grab, everything's in there good. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up buttoning up the intake manifold, put the throttle body back on, and basically have everything where I had the car and ready to get the intake mounted to it. And then we will go from there and get the heat shield in and the air filter and get everything all buttoned up. So I got all this buttoned back up, got the injectors and the rail back in, got the throttle body back on, everything's plumbed and hooked back up. Now it's time to get the heat shield in place with your MAF sensor. There is going to be two spots where that heat shield mounts. One is this bolt down here, right below your fuse block. Just use your 10mm, take that out. And then the other is going to be one of those Torx headed screws that holds your factory air inlet piping in from the factory setup. So go ahead and kind of work that in here. It might be a little tight. The heat shield is nice and big to help keep all the heat out, obviously. But just kind of slide it in here, line everything up, take that factory bolt out. You're going to use that bolt again on this side and then the same factory bolt up here. And then you can mount that in, and then we'll get all these, we'll get the actual hose, or the silicone tube rather, the intake hooked up to everything, and we'll get the filter on. Alright, well she's in. My battery died so you didn't get to see the full struggle of that. This is really tight trying to get this on your MAF sensor here and getting the heat shield in here. Everything's pretty tight tolerances. They designed it to fit really well and keep most of the heat out and away from your air filter. It's in. I put both the hose clamps just loosely on there because I knew I was going to have this on the throttle body and on the MAF sensor, so we can go ahead and tighten up those hose clamps next. But there's not a whole lot of play in this and trying to wiggle this in there and fitting it around your bumper and all that stuff. It's in though. Factory 10mm bolts back in there. My front side here didn't line up. I'll try to get some video, kind of a weird angle. That didn't line up, but it's in there tight. It's not rubbing on any of the coolant lines or any of the wiring or anything. You do want to be careful when you're putting this in. Make sure you're not you know, catching any of your wires and ripping the silicone sleeving around it and anything like that, and making sure when it's in, all your wires and plumbing for the coolant system and everything is out of the way and not being bound up or rubbing against this metal piece here. So I got to get the strip across here, the weather stripping that they supplied, put that on there. We're going to put the air filter on with the hose clamp. We're going to tighten these hose clamps, and then we are pretty much done. Well, everything's in, air filter's on, everything's all hooked up. Last thing I gotta do is remember to cut this line and hook it up to my brake booster. That way I have power brakes and I don't rear end anyone on the highway, because that would be stupid. So, just gotta cut this to length, one hose clamp, and everything is buttoned up. I'll get that done. Last thing you'll wanna do is fire up the car, make sure everything's working right, and go for a drive. See how it sounds, see how it feels. Make sure there's no leaks anywhere. Make sure everything's good. Alright, so there's where it didn't line up on mine. You can see where the bolt is and where the heat shield slot lines up. It should have been lined up with the bolt. I don't know why it didn't line up on mine. For now, I just put that zip tie there to kind of just keep it from sagging down onto that radiator. That way, the heat shield's not going onto the radiator and causing any problems during vibrations on the road. I'll just keep an eye on that zip tie. Hopefully it doesn't shred right through it. Zip ties make the world go round. Hashtag because race car. But yeah, that's just my little solution just to keep it from sagging down and resting on that radiator hose. Alright guys, that intake is on. She's all finished, all buttoned up. I ran the engine, no leaks, no nothing like that, nothing crazy. Still gotta go take it for a test drive, but we'll get to that. Maybe I'll do some more sound clip videos for you guys. I know you guys like those videos. Anyways, install went pretty straightforward. I'd say that was probably a little harder than maybe getting that intake manifold on. I know that lower bolt on the intake manifold under runner 3, just because you're doing it blind. That's pretty difficult, but such a tight fit on that intake that getting that heat shield in and made it up and everything to the intake piping, pretty rough. Not gonna lie, it's easier than doing that intake manifold. I'm not gonna lie, that blind bolt just sucked, but pretty straightforward. Obviously this is gonna go better if you do that all at once. That's the way it's designed to go. Just buy the power bundle, get your software, get your intake manifold, get your intake all in one swoop. That way you're just doing it all at once and you can follow their step-by-step guide, or my videos, which links to everything down below. Pretty straightforward. I'm excited to see if the sound changed from having that intake on there from just having the cone filter directly on the throttle body. I'm assuming straightening out that air a little bit before it goes into the manifold is definitely going to help out. Fuel economy, maybe slight performance increase, and hopefully I'll get a little bit more of that intake sound back instead of feeding it directly into the manifold and then trying to split up through all 5 runners. That's all done. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out. If you got any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. Links to everything I used in the video down below, links to some other videos that you might be interested in down below. They probably popped up on screen during this video too, because me, YouTube. That's what we like to do. Got to represent the channel and help it grow. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Always got more videos coming, especially with the 2.5 liter 5-cylinder from Volkswagen. That's kind of my daily. That's what I do. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you in the next one.